What becomes insane if you think about it for too long? The unimaginable vastness of the universe. To make it even more insane, start thinking about the Fermi paradox. If the universe is so vast, why do we appear to be alone in it? Because it is so vast. I mean, there could be life a couple 100 million light year away. Life could be really common, but maybe intelligent life is not really common. There could be intelligent life that's close, but they're not that technologically advanced. The idea of you not existing before you were born and conceived. Think about where you were 2000 years ago. If you follow that thread too far, you get to a point where you realize hydrogen named itself. I'm not big brain enough to understand. Someone bless me with the knowledge. Death. What nothingness might feel like. What if there's an afterlife? You ever sleep with no dreams? It's like that. Just some sort of state of non-existing. And I personally don't believe in afterlife, since what keeps life going is conscience and a vessel for that conscience. If the vessel is broken, the conscience will too. And a vessel with no conscience is just an object. This talking about humans or animals that appear to have an actual conscience. Now then, how do I know that without a vessel you won't be alive? Well, of course I don't, as nobody knows. But logically speaking, we can see because we have eyes. We can think because we have a brain. We can taste with our tongue and so on. So if those aren't connected with ourselves, we won't be able to do anything. Who knows, maybe there is an afterlife. But with this line of thought, we would just be spirit vegetables floating around. Not really accurate. Your brain just discards the dreams. It's basically the incapacity to store memories. If we take it after you, but you don't stock them even for a moment. So you could as well not exist. But you end up with a paradox, and I end up with a headache. Words, like, if you think about a word for too long, it just begins to sound funny. Words just look weird after you stare at them for too long. Almost like they are spelled wrong or not real words. If you stare at squiggles long enough, that is what they become. Genitals. Why the heck are we attracted to them? Why am I drawn to some woman's slit between her legs and some milk dispensers in her chest? Am I insane? Also, genitals are in the exact middle of your height. Good to know. Size. I'm unimaginably large compared to an atom. But I'm so small, I'm less than a billionth of a grain of sand compared to the universe. I just came from the Dicta 2 thread and this made me laugh a lot. The morbidity of human anatomy. For example, we see eyes as beautiful in their context, but look behind the eyelids and eyelashes and there we have it. The brutal facts of anatomy staring right at us. This one made me feel weird. The horrifically ugly internal workings of a beautiful human body. I think the fact that it's horrific is a construct stemming from the fear of being split open / exposing the innards. If, somehow, humans were able to be opened and closed at will without damage / pain, I don't think it would be so bad. But because seeing behind the eyeball means something happened to the eyeball, we think horror. Grossi say this because most folks who study the body see it differently than you or I. Seeing beauty inside and out as all the things connect to each other and flow and are colorful. The stories before recorded history. Isn't that the vast majority of human existence? Completely unknown. Absolutely mind-boggling that the society we have built is essentially a drop in the ocean that is humans on Earth. The concept of society. What is going to happen to the memory of you when you die? Eventually no one will be alive and you and you will mostly be forgotten. Hey. Maybe the universe is a huge quantum consciousness, and our brain activity leaves some kind of electromagnetic pattern. Maybe our memories and experiences go on to exist forever, and transcend space and time. Or maybe we are just temporary meat machines. Pretty crazy either way. For me, language, I mean there's hundreds of languages. They were all just created from made up noises. We created different languages, sign, Spanish, Latin, Arabic, etc. It's just wild to have so many different ones. The idea of ownership. It seems self-evident, but it's a pure imaginary human concept. The idea that you can just look at a piece of land and say mine, and it will be true for all your children and your children's children until the end of time. But then anyone with a sword can challenge this, right? So you have to be able to defend it so that it's truly yours. In a sense it comes back to the same might makes right you find in nature. Nothing is truly yours unless you are ready to work to protect it. But then civilization moves on and the legal system, and now, when you own something, you have the firepower of an entire country to back your claim. So in effect, arbitrary things belong to you and all your lineage for the end of time without you having to do anything to protect it. And that's kind of crazy when you compare it to the animal kingdom. But then people start saying that they not only own stuff, but they also own ideas. You know that song? It's just some vibration you do with your voice. Well, you can't do that anymore. You can splash painting on a canvas randomly, but God forbids it starts looking too much like another thing I own. And I didn't even create, but my great grandfather. And if that splash of painting looks like 3 dots, 2 small and 1 big, that looks like maybe a mouse, then may God have mercy on your soul. And that's crazy to me. So much of what seems completely arbitrary is more like a big game of chess or a house of cards. Egg, why does a state defend your stuff? Because if they don't you will find someone who does. If everyone does that, the state doesn't have any power and ceases to exist. Neutron stars. Absolutely crazy that a tablespoon of a neutron star can have the same mass as New York City. Life. Absolute silence. Well, thoughts. The fact that my brain is wired in a way that makes it produce inner images, brand new ideas, sadness, joy, and excitement. And that I can sit at my desk and wonder why I'm thinking what I'm without automatically having the answer from the thing that's producing the thoughts is pretty insane. I guess it is, because thoughts own people. Think at it. When many people have the same thought or idea, it can be that they are being owned by it. Some facts about the human anatomy, like the length of all arteries and veins in our body is about 60,000 miles, 100,000 kilometers. Also the length of the DNA in a single microscopic cell is almost 3 meters. Carol Baskin's romantic history, you know, not going to defend her. But the documentary really cherry-picked the info they gave on her to create a narrative that doesn't really reflect reality. It's worth looking into if you've got the time. Not saying she killed her husband or anything, but how does one explain his will being written to include in case of disappearance and the fact that the lady in charge of the actual wills had her office broken into? I think. Therefore I am. But then philosophical zombies exist, and it's do robots have feelings all over again. And then shit gets even duckier once we touch on sexuality. And then you watch the end of Sausage Party and the last bits of satanity you had in your life crumble, and the only thing you certainly do know is that there is no God. Cause he fucking exorcised himself. Committed Sudoku. Came back to life and straight up killed himself again, cause that shit is even more cursed than the Cats movie. TLDR. Child movie with sentient foods that have an orgy equals God is kill. Over his life the average man will produce 500 billion sperm. Yet you're here. If it had been a different one, your DNA would be different. You'd be different. You'd interact with your environment differently. It would all be different. The vastness of space. The reason we haven't heard from any other civilizations is mostly likely because shit is just too far away. Thinking about our existence as a fractal. We are living in a simulation and have created a simulation, the internet. Will that simulation keep going and creating simulations? Are we a virtual machine of some other reality? How far does it go? How does existence just keep unfolding in this way? Matter can't be lost or created, as far as we know, so maybe it's all just the same shit being looped or something. I know one thing, my humanity holds me back from thinking about it in depth. The fact that I'm capable of thinking about it, but can't think about for too long without feeling overwhelmed, makes me think that I'm a spiritual being with the capability of understanding the universe, but I'm being constrained by the physical barrier of my human brain. And I don't like it. Thinking about consciousness really can keep me occupied for a long time. The fact that there are colors in this world we don't know about yet. That when you die, it's literally nothing. It's not black, or soundless, or a void. It's just nothing. Your consciousness is basically the result of chemicals pinging around your brain. Once those reactions stop, you stop. But when you consider that the memory of you exists in the minds of other people, there's something oddly beautiful about it. To be fair, we don't actually know exactly what makes us conscious as far as I'm aware, but I'm happy to be taught otherwise. For all we know, human existence does have some spiritual aspect, which I'm inclined not to believe in, to be fair, but we just don't know for sure. How everything works under our own eye. Think about nature or the human body. It's just wild. Any word. Even better. Say it out loud over and over again. What really happens when you die? I've thought something like, if I die, do I float in a dark abyss forever? No, like just endless darkness with nothing to do other than exist in it. For me, everything. Think about something for too long and existential crisis thoughts be heading in. How airplane wings work. Most people have absolutely no idea how they work, and it blows their mind when I tell them. Basically, there is a thing called Bernoulli's principle where, if a liquid moves at a velocity, its pressure drops. So the top of an airplane wing is longer than the bottom. The air like splits when it hits the leading edge of the wing, but meets up on the trailing edge. But the air on the top traveled a further distance to get there, so it was faster, which means its pressure is lower. Higher pressure on bottom, lower pressure on top. Due to the way it is, the wing basically gets sucked up. Source: pilot. Hey, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.